Roll call. Here.
Deputy Mayor Rose.
Here.
Councilor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Caprio. Councilor Duty.
Here.
Councilor Esposito. Councilor Fawnin. Councilor Tucci.
Here.
Councilor Wentworth.
Here.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes from our previous February 7th, 2012 regular WPCA Town Council meeting?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Fusey. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose.
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni.
Yes.
Councilor Duty.
Yes.
Councilor Tucci.
Yes.
Councilor Wentworth.
Yes.
Special Water Pollution Control Authority agenda. Item 3, unfinished business, discussion and action regarding Connecticut DOT project number 98-103, Route 139 and Valley Road, engineering services for sanitary sewer meter relocation.
Good evening. In discussion of that matter with the town attorney's office, the direction is that I have to go out to bid. So I'll be preparing a bid for the engineering services. It'll incorporate town requirements and there's state DOT requirements as well that will be forwarded to that. John gave me information last week, so I'm trying to put something together now to move that along. But that's pretty much where it stands.
Thank you, Kurt. The regular town council agenda. I'm going to move to item 7, which is citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Butler. I'm the Executive Director of the Evergreen Woods, which is a life care community here in North Branford that has operated for the last 20 years. It houses 300 or so residents, and we happen to be the number 2 taxpayer in the town of North Branford. I have brought with me a group of residents who are here representing those 300 residents in our concern regarding the procedural due process of the tax assessment of Evergreen Woods. I'd like to introduce Jules Prown, who is our resident finance committee chair, to state the concerns of the residents.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, I'm chair of the Finance Committee, and we represent the financial concerns and interests of the residents, and I speak on their behalf. At our November meeting last year, we were informed by management that the assessment on Evergreen Woods had been increased by 75%. This came as sort of a shock to us. Many of us on the committee, and indeed most of us who are residents at Evergreen Woods, have lived in New England or Connecticut for most of our lives. I've been here in this area for over 50 years. And we're accustomed to normal increases in the assessments as there are additions or alterations or changes in circumstances, and to periodic changes in the rates. But 75% was outside of the range of any of our experience and was quite shocking. So we were disturbed by that, and we were also disturbed by the fact that we didn't find out about this until November, which seemed very late in the year. So we asked about that, and the executive director told us that Evergreen Woods did not find out about the matter until August, and that was on the occasion when they received the bill to be paid. So they made an effort to appeal that, and were told that no, the notices of assessment had gone out early in the year, and that it was too late to file an appeal. The Evergreen Woods said, well, we never received any such notification, and the town said, well, such notification was indeed sent out. So it was too late to appeal. Now, apparently that increase in assessment was made without any visitation to Evergreen Woods by the firm that had been hired by the town, by the assessor, in order to make that assessment. And that's sort of complicated, but and I don't think I'll go there because it's a he said, she said sort of thing as to why they did or did not know about it. But the critical issue is, in fact, that the increase was 75%. So in December, mid-December, I sent a letter to Mayor Candelora and to Town Manager Brannigan, sort of spelling out my understanding of what the situation was. I noted that because of the arrangement whereby property taxes to the town of Branford are an operating expense of Evergreen Woods, that expense is covered by the residents, not by the owners. And this would mean an annual increase per resident of over $2,000. Residents who are elderly and for the most part living on fixed income. I requested in that letter that the assessor and the town officials examine the valuation estimate and obtain accurate information in order that they could arrive at what would be a fair assessment for Evergreen Woods. Unfortunately, my letters were not answered. So in January, I wrote again, really the end of January. And that letter was answered by Mr. Brannigan, who apologized for not having responded. He suggested the possibility of a special site visit prior to a formal appeal being heard by the Board of Assessment Appeals. To the best of my knowledge, there has been no site visit since that time. He also agreed with the point that I made in my letter that it would be desirable to resolve the issue without the need for litigation and the kind of painful costs that would be associated with such litigation, which would of necessity be passed on to the ratepayers in North Branford. The owners of Evergreen Woods made it clear to us from the very beginning they would pursue every possible measure to appeal this and to be as cooperative as they can, but if it was not resolved on appeal, that it would move into the courts and to litigation. At the same time, the owners engaged a commercial firm that specialized in consulting on what are called CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities. And from their study of the situation, a number of factors emerged, which included one, that the town had apparently made a change in their method for calculating the assessment of Evergreen Woods, a change with which the consultants were not in agreement. They did not think it was appropriate. Secondly, even without benefit of having made a visit to the property, the assessment firm defined Evergreen Woods as largely, and I quote, a life care nursing home facility, rather than what it is, which is a senior living, continuing care retirement community, which has a small 50-bed nursing facility attached to it. Finally, they found that there is a substantial variation between the assessment that was put on Evergreen Woods and the mean and median assessments for CCRCs nationwide. So again, they felt that it was inappropriate. So the question is, where do we stand at this point? To us, speaking for the residents, the 75% increase seems unjustified. It seems inequitable. With that increase of about $2,000, which in fact is more than that because of the rate increase now, which brings it up to about 82%, so therefore well over $2,000, falling upon almost 300 residents, North Branford residents, who are living on fixed incomes. The goal, obviously, for all of us, you and us, is to avoid costly litigation, which would get passed along to the ratepayers. Now, at Evergreen Woods, we have tried to keep this all very low-key because the appeal process is going on. We're optimistic that it will get resolved. We hope it will get resolved. But if it's necessary, the residents will respond. They will, perhaps by publicizing what we perceive to be an inequity, whether we do it through ballot, through making the information public to the media, going to government authorities, state regulators, whatever would seem appropriate in order to make the case. But that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is to resolve it so that what the residents of Evergreen Woods are doing is asking the assessor and you, the town officials, to work with the owners of Evergreen Woods to evaluate the current assessment, to see whether it's appropriate or not appropriate, or to make sure that if this goes to the Board of Assessment Appeals, which it may well do, that they give the matter a fair and thorough review. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, if you have any questions in terms of what the residents' point of view are concerned, I'll be glad to give that, but Kristen Butler can speak to any of the more technical
I have
matters
just
that are-
one question for you, sir. Just to give us a little more information. You say an average unit, an average person's unit went up about $2,000 from where it was before the, is that right? Am I understanding it right?
Not quite, almost. It's per capita for $2,000 per individual. Per unit, it would be more like $2,400.
What were they?
A unit being an apartment.
Right, an apartment. What was like the average that an apartment paid in taxes prior to this increase? What were they? Does anybody, give us a little more information. Thank you.
Essentially, through the residents pay for taxes through their monthly service fee, so it's dispersed throughout the community. This tax increase is essentially about $573,000. We have 246 apartments, plus we have the 50-bed health center. So when we take this tax increase, it will increase each apartment and/or resident in the health center's monthly service fee by over $2,000.
I understand. What was it before that? Do you know about what it?
Per capita, I don't know what they pay. What I do know is that the total taxes changed from $701,000 to $1.2 million.
And how many residents about? Was 300?
300 or so when we include our health center.
All right, thanks. That's,
I'm going to ask
Yeah.
the town manager to get together with Christine and look into this. And
Yeah, and if I can just, the town manager and I have been in communication, and I've been in communication with Christine, and just have not had a response in terms of a site visit, et cetera. And I think in general, what the residents ask and what myself as the operator asks is that we work, and I'm asking the council to intervene in the town operations to ensure that we can go through the appeals process. And the only way that the appeals board can have the information that they need is to complete the site visit that was never completed earlier in 2011.
all right, thank you.
Richard, is there any reason why they didn't have a site visit? Does the company that does the assessing, don't they visit all these things? Or you just?
I think there was some confusion on the site visit. There were some attempts. What I can do, and I've discussed this with Christine, is prepare for the council a chronology of all the correspondence, both from the consultant and from Mr. Crown and my letter back to them. Under normal circumstances, yes, there would be a site visit, and I believe there was an attempt made to have those site visits conducted. Christine and I have had a number of conversations, as Kristen and I have had conversations about trying to get the consultant back to make the site visit that did not happen prior to the Board of Assessment Appeals reviewing this case. So as you all understand, Christine's emphasis for the past month and a half or so has been on certification of the grand list, which is now behind us as of the 31st of January. So we are now moving into a phase where she's trying to work on a schedule to make that site visit that did not happen prior to the Board of Assessment.
Mr. Mayor?
It seems pretty unfair for, at its face value, what I'm hearing, I'm sorry, John.
That's okay. No, it's fine. I just wanted to get a clarification from the gentleman who spoke first. You had some sort of consulting person yourself, and is it your understanding that consulting firm characterized the Evergreen Woods as more in the nature of a nursing facility, a life care nursing facility, as opposed to a continuing care facility? Okay.
Yeah, the owners, we contracted with a consultant to basically redo to complete the assessment process. But the assessment company that was hired by the town
Yeah.
is who categorized all of Evergreen Woods as a nursing facility instead of just the 50 beds. So the 246 independent resident apartments were not categorized as apartments, but as a nursing center.
So you're saying, in effect, that there was a classification
Error.
error.
Correct.
I guess I gotta see if there's any other citizens. Are there any other citizen statements at this time? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go back to the regular town council agenda. Item 4, reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Item A, Permanent Project Building Committee.
The Permanent Project Building Committee met last Monday, and I'll report on the Stanley T. Williams conversion portion of it. There is, at this point in time, because the steep grant that we received is basically going to be used to do the HVAC work on the building, that will eat up most of the grant. So the additional work that needs to be done in order to get into the building, the architect went through and made a listing, and then Richard took from that listing and did a much shorter list as to what he thought were the necessary items. And now at this point, there is going to be a special meeting between the Permanent Project Building Committee and the Park and Rec Commission, so that we make sure that since it's going to be Park and Recs and Senior Center that will be moving into there, that there's no critical items missing from that list before we come up with a final number as to what the building committee will make a recommendation to the town council, and then at that point, the town council is going to have to look at it and approve additional funding to finish, to get into the project. And that meeting, has that meeting been scheduled yet, Richard?
No, we're working on it.
Okay.
Thank you. Item B, Hazardous Waste and Recycling Committee.
Mr. Mayor, the Hazardous Waste and Recycling Committee met a week or so ago, and the main topic of conversation, at least from my perspective, is being addressed by the Solid Waste Committee, which again sat in on a meeting that we had with Covanta, and that is progressing. Also, in terms of recycling, there's an emphasis on reaching out to the schools and making sure that they're doing their part in recycling and removing items from the waste stream that are costing us money to dispose of. So we'll have a renewed emphasis on that, and I'm preparing some information to go and speak to the superintendent about prior to the new contract, because we'll want to sort out those things and make sure that we're properly addressing those in whoever our new contract is going to be. The schools represent, it's been characterized as about 15% of our waste stream is coming out of the schools that we're collecting, so it's a significant amount.
I would just make a suggestion on that, is to make sure that the schools are equipped with enough recycling receptacles, because I think part of the problem is because I see it, is that there's no place to put the recycling, and I don't know the frequency of how often they get picked up. And so I think sometimes what happens is it ends up going back into the trash stream. So just to make sure that that's part of it is covered, that there's a place to put it in the pickup schedule.
Got it.
Yeah, sir, I was looking at their strategic plan, at 2.29, it says here that they're engaging to promote environmental awareness and sustainable living. Recycling is one of the key issues, I think, that they're looking at. And from the COGS point of view, I know how expensive it has gotten when the trash is mixed. So yeah, if we could look, because the town is paying for the school's trash pickup, correct?
Yes.
So that 15% could equivalent to about $100,000 a year, roughly, 75 to 100,000.
I'd say on the low end of that, 75,000 or thereabouts, by not recycling it and paying the increased tipping fee.
Right. Okay. Finance Subcommittee.
Finance Subcommittee met. It was uneventful, unremarkable. You know, I don't know if Richard wants to point anything out, but it was, there was, for years I thought there was some super secret stuff going on there. They hid it from me. And,
You found out that's not the case.
It was a secret handshake.
So, yeah, we didn't find any new money, and you know, didn't spend any either. So, I don't know, Richard, what do you want to add to it?
Oh, it's a work in progress on the, you know, a lot of what we're talking about now is the existing budget, and dealing with this year's budget and transfers coming up, appropriation transfers and some small contingent transfers that are on the agenda this evening. And then going forward, at the next meeting, we will be talking about budget transfers to resolve what was done last summer with the police department. So we want to bring those and recast all of that the way it's supposed to be, do all those transfers, so that as you're doing this coming fiscal year, the 12-13 budget process, you're able to look at apples to apples as opposed to trying to figure out what was what back in last July. So there's still a lot of work to be done on the budget.
And I may add, we talked about adding to the legal fee to correct that in the budget, and the communications for the fire and police.
Right. There's some big ticket items coming up, not just with capital, but as we look at this year's budget, not to get off the track, we're looking at fuel prices that right now we've been forecasting at about $3.40 a gallon, and that number may not hold. So we're looking at a contingency allocation for some of that and moving the budget along. So we've still got a lot of work to do.
Item D, Solid Waste Subcommittee.
Basically, the subcommittee met, and we're looking at different avenues of ways to collect our trash, ways to collect our recycling, from a single stream to, you know, containers to everything else. And they're gonna get back to us. We're putting together, you know, some estimates as to which way is the best way to go for our residents and for the town. So we're in the preliminary phase of that. So we haven't had anything, but we met with Convanta. They're going to guarantee us, you know, and we know it has to go out to bid, but they're going to guarantee us a lower, you know, fixed rate to put our trash in Wallingford versus going all the way to Essex. So that's where we are now.
So that'll be another meeting we will be rescheduling. We have some information that just came in from CRRA that the committee needs to take a look at as well. We received that on Friday, so we'll be setting up a second meeting to follow.
Thank you. Emergency Communications Subcommittee.
Mr. Mayor, that's third on the list of committee meetings that need to be scheduled in the next week or so. In addition, the Finance Subcommittee will be meeting again. You have an agenda item because of the way the meetings fall. You have an agenda item tonight to approve that next
Right.
subcommittee meeting. So.
Thank you.
Excuse me. The pension committee isn't on the list, but I got this, so I guess you want me to do it, right?
Sure.
The pension committee met and we discussed two pensions. One person was not eligible, but she didn't receive the required years to receive a pension. And the other one was just a choice between how she wanted it distributed. Also, Avery Brew, our contact from Morgan Stanley, suggested that 10% of each folio the police, fire, and town currently invested with forward drug tactical growth manager be transferred to Loomis Sales fixed income manager. This was based on the current economic conditions, and we voted to do that.
And I wasn't sure if you wanted to add anything for fire or police on the subcommittees. Was there anything pending for either? No. Okay. Item 5, Town Manager's Report.
I'll be as brief as possible. In addition to what I provided you in writing last week, there are some updates. We had an inspection of the mechanical systems at NBIS that took place yesterday. That inspection was conducted by Bill Chody from the school staff and a representative from Diversified Technologies, who is the mechanical design consulting firm for Newman Architects. They went through the systems primarily in areas C and D, where the old building meets the new building, and they were concerned about insulation of ductwork and making sure that everything was installed according to the specifications that DTC had in fact written for the project. We received the report late this afternoon. That will be forwarded to the members of the Permanent Project Building Committee. Newman Architects has yet to react to this, and we will also send it off to Turner and to the mechanical contractor Ferguson to get their written response. There are clearly some omissions that were noted. They were photographed. An initial reaction is that some of these are omissions of less than significant nature, but others may have been a result or caused some of the leaking that we incurred. Some have since been fixed. So we will distribute that report, and I'd be happy to give copies of that to the town council as well. Also, there is a report submitted to the Permanent Project Building Committee on the main entrance doors that's being evaluated. The consultant to the architect has recommended a specific way of resolving the issue that we have with the main entrance doors at the school, and that's under review and will go out to the door supplier that was actually did the installation. That was a glass company that did the installation and not a hardware company that helped with the design. So we're trying to make some progress on that. Some of those issues were on the original punch list, and other issues have developed. In some cases as a matter of maintenance, wear and tear, and some of those areas we're trying to address as well. On the high school roof project, one of the priorities that the purchasing staff is working on is the request for qualifications for the architect for the roof project. If you recall the last meeting, we did away with the confusion about whether we needed to go to an RFQ or not. So we're waiting on final comments to come back, and we may be sending that out to the Permanent Project Building Committee in the next few days. There have been no additional leaks at the high school project since about a month and a half ago. You're going to hear a presentation on the SWICHEC from the consultant Nathan Young this evening, later in the agenda. Councilor Angeloni spoke about the Stephen T. Williams project. The town engineer is coordinated a meeting on the Route 80 widening project. That will happen, I believe, on March 2nd.
February 29th.
I'm sorry, February 29th. There's an afternoon meeting we've been working on for about a month and a half between DOT and the members of the Congregational Church. So that will address their issues. We are continuing with union negotiations. Police vehicles, I noted that thus far we've traded in the vehicles that were net surplus after the leasing project. We've gotten about $5,000 so far. There's 2 additional vehicles, the fire marshal's vehicles and the deputy fire marshal. Those vehicles are being replaced as well, and we have quotes in for repainting those. So when those come off the line, those will go in for auction as well. So we'll be up over, I would guess, somewhere over $6,000 in surplus. In terms of bids, we're working on the tax bill printing and a trade labor bid for carpentry, electrical, painting, those types of HVAC that is not covered by our mechanical system repair. And the 8-24 referral that was made at the last council meeting will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission by mid-March. I believe it'll be their second meeting in March that issue will be addressed. And if there are no questions, that is the end of my answer.
Who's paying for the omissions on the intermediate school? Is it the insurance company for the contract there?
There'll be a claim filed. If we have the evidence, we will go back, and that's why we're keeping the construction attorney involved. So any of this documentation will go to the construction attorney.
So who paid for it as of now? We did?
We've paid for it so far. We paid for the original installation. Any repairs have been made at no charge by Ferguson Mechanical to date. So anything that goes forward, we would assume the same. And if not, we will take appropriate action through the attorney.
Yeah, they moved that pension money over to what, about a fixed bond fund, or what did they do with that? Pension money Joanne was talking about when they switched companies?
Yeah, it was a difference, it was a fixed income they moved it into from a tactical growth that he felt wasn't appropriate at this time based on the investment environment.
Right.
So it was 10% of the assets amongst all 3 plans into this, back into the fixed income model.
That's domestic bonds?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Community events and presentations.
Having State of the Town, State of the State breakfast meeting on next Wednesday, the 29th. It'll be here, if anybody wants to attend.
Oh, and it's 7:30 a.m. The Totoket Times had a misprint, and they had put 7:30 p.m.
Well, it's not a good time for breakfast here.
I know. Although if you have breakfast the night before, it'll save you time in the morning. State of the Town, Senator Meyer will be here, State Representative Candelora, myself, Town Manager, and the Superintendent. And again, at 7:30 here, and there's going to be coffee, tea, and some small breakfast.
Breakfast.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
I might have to show up.
I'll ask again, item 7, citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence. Okay, having none. Resignations and appointments.
I'm gonna move to put, or actually, it's not on there. Do we need to
We have to amend the agenda.
amend the agenda for a police commission appointment? So it's that, we go all the way, 8A, right? For a council appointment to the liaison to the police commission?
I'll second your motion.
Amend.
Agenda.
Moved,
Vote on the amendment.
moved by Deputy Mayor Rose, seconded by Councilor Wentworth to amend the agenda to appoint for the liaison for the police commission. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Esposito.
Yes.
Counselor Fucci.
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Vinnie Caprio as the council liaison to the police commission.
I'll second it.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Rose, seconded by Councilor Fucy. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Abstain.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Esposito.
Yes.
Counselor Fucci.
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth.
Yes.
I think that's liaison. Okay. 9, unfinished business, discussion and action. Item A, 2011 Potato Festival financial summary.
You have before you what I believe to be the final financial report for the 2011 festival. There's one lingering item regarding the shuttle bus. There's potentially upwards of about $1,000 remaining on that. But as it stands right now, last year's event had a positive result of $5,767.29.
Can we get a detailed report of the Potato Festival money, what came in for
Sure.
parking and different things?
That's exactly
That's
what I
what
was
we were
gonna ask
looking
for.
for.
Yeah.
Okay.
This needs to be a little more,
I'm sorry, I thought we already provided that information. In a preliminary report, I thought that had the breakdown of where the revenue sources were.
I don't remember getting it, and I would like to have another copy if you do
Okay.
have it. But I
Well,
want
yeah.
it very
Send out-
detailed,
I
what was
think
spent and what was.
if we're gonna do a final
brought in.
thing, let's see what the final thing is. I'd like to see a complete breakdown too.
Okay, we have it.
That's fine.
We have all the expense categories and the revenue categories and a 3-year history of each category.
I don't remember getting
Good.
it, but.
Could we
And
get that again?
we would be looking for, I'm sure you guys are too, we would be looking for, like, we have, our one line item of an expense of $130,000. I'd like to see that broken out as to how we got to
Oh,
130,000.
absolutely.
We did. I apologize. We were looking at a final summary of income and expenses.
But that's not what we asked for. We asked for a full report.
I understand that, but I believe we've supplied that information in the past.
Yes.
So it should be easy for you to get it again.
I
Right.
have it in my office.
So, and while we're on the Potato Festival, where are we at with that? I had heard that the recreation director had said that she wasn't gonna be involved with it again this year, so, where are we at with it? And how is it going forward? Is it going forward? I mean, the town council hasn't discussed this at all, so, and again, you hear things on the street of what's going on out there, and I'm kind of curious as to what is going on. Because we haven't had a discussion here unless, I haven't been absent.
They have a committee for this potato festival, right, Richard?
Yeah, I can tell you that the committee has been formed, much the same faces that were involved for the last few years that were.
So let's start right with that. Is this a new committee?
It's actually very similar to the previous committee. The main difference is that Pam Geary, as the rec director, is not heading the committee. There are 2 co-chairs that have been duly elected from the rest of the members of those volunteer committee. Pam is serving as the treasurer for that group so that she has and continues to have absolute control of the finances. That was my strong suggestion, and the committee is still a volunteer subset of the Parks and Recreation Department and of the Parks and Recreation Commission. They cannot spend any money without going through proper town procedures. All all of the items that we purchase or all of the income that we receive is no different than the previous 3 years have been. I am serving, stepping up in my role to attend the committee meetings and to attend the subcommittee meetings. There's a subcommittee that has to do with facilities, for example, that our department heads will be meeting together with the co-chairs of that, coordinating those issues. But in terms of revenue, and is this a separate nonprofit organization or whatever that you've heard on the street, it's not. It's a volunteer committee, very similar to what we've had for the last couple of years, and they are walking through the steps of, at some day, perhaps going off as a nonprofit, but this is still a committee that has to do with town funds, and they're all volunteers.
Well, I know I missed a meeting, but I thought the last time we talked about this, that it was gonna be a standalone thing, and we were looking into it to be like a nonprofit thing, and
That's moving,
so we're not there yet with that? Because
We're
I
not.
thought that was the direction of the council the last time we talked about it. Or am I wrong?
It takes, as I understand the process, to form a 501c3. It's not an overnight process. It takes several months to do. Certainly not going to be in time for this year's festival. There's a lot of things that have changed in this year's festival coming up, namely Pam and her staff stepping back a little bit. So having the volunteers step forward, there's only so much change that you can absorb in one particular year.
They're gonna continue to manage the finances, is that what, am I understanding it right?
Yeah,
Through the Park
Pam-
and Rec, through Pam?
Correct. It's all town finances at this point. So rather than jumping into something that will be totally independent, I think we're moving towards that eventually with the town and ultimately the town council still having control over the finances and the committee still being bound by the spending and the policies of the town to move things forward.
So who are the co-chairs?
I believe it's Dennis Pannone and Willie Taylor.
Have they thought about limitations of the site that they're using as far as power and water and all that stuff? Because I know they've had issues in the past where power outages have happened and a whole bunch of other things.
Well, one of the things that you'll see on the financial report when you get it is the investment, the reinvestment that's been made back into some of the infrastructure, power being principal amongst those.
Right, you just can't get too big for your britches, that's the thing.
Wouldn't, and maybe John can help me with this, but if this is gonna be a separate committee, wouldn't the town council have to form this committee, John?
I think the town council would definitely have to be involved in the approval of that committee.
And probably a council member would be on it.
I don't remember that we've ever discussed a committee, because it was always done by Park and Rec.
Right.
And
I do remember discussions about, I mean, first of all, you look at this, you bring in 150,000 and you keep 5, and you're like, is this something that we want to put all our resources and all this work into?
Should be
So I
making
think
more than
that's a
that,
question that, and maybe we do, but
I
maybe we
mean,
don't.
churches have carnivals and make a hell of a lot more than that.
About 80 grand in a week.
Yeah.
So, well, we might be
Seems-
enlightened when we see that, where the 130,000 goes.
But they get a lot of volunteer stuff with the church, too.
There's an awful lot of volunteers in this
Right.
event too, so we do need to see where the expenses are, but again, I'm almost, that's why last summer, or, right after it ended last year, and the word was out that Pam was going to step down, I kept saying, we need to put this on the agenda to see how it goes forward. And it's almost like, okay, Pam was gonna step down, but now she doesn't want to give up the purse strings.
That's what it seems like.
can I interrupt there?
You can interrupt, Richard, but I guess I would be
Pam doesn't
careful.
have, Pam doesn't have a choice in the purse strings. She's the department head that has supervision over this event through under the auspices of the Parks and Recreation Commission. So it goes through Pam. As I said earlier, all of the purchasing and deposits using town funds have to be certified by the administrator in charge. So Pam really didn't have an option as far as I'm concerned, on stepping too far away from how this is going to operate, at least in this interim period. And again, I don't think you can jump from where they were just 3 years into this festival and then make it a totally separate nonprofit. I think there was an emphasis from the Parks and Recreation Commission to keep it moving. There's been dialogue back and forth, and there has been several months of transition. So I don't think Pam really had an option in this, if we're going to control.
So I guess then the question is, especially after hearing from John, that the council should have appointed this, or not, maybe not appointed it, but should have formed this subcommittee, and we haven't.
Approved it anyway.
Where do we go from there?
Yeah, but when we talked about this, we never made it a requirement by the council to appoint anybody. This was a subcommittee appointed by the Park and Rec Commission. We gave them the authority to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't say, listen, boys and girls.
With
come
John
back-
saying
come
we
back-
have to
come back
approve
the
it now,
council.
right? I thought, he was just saying that even if that's true, Mike, it still has to
But
come
we
to
did
us for
not, we
approval,
did
right?
not give them that direction. That's what I'm saying. We did not give them that direction.
I thought we were clear about doing that, but
Well,
it could be
you may
that
have
I'm
been,
wrong.
but
And now, the money from this festival is still in the Potato Festival Fund.
It should just get rolled over, I
Right.
would think, right?
It's in
There
the
is a
fund, that
fund.
$5,000 is in with the $15,000
From the
or so for the
previous
year
year.
before, and it's in the Park and Recreation Fund. It's allocated and categorized as Potato and Corn Festival and can only be used for that. That's been made clear since day one, that whatever monies get generated by the festival do not get blended into community programs or anything else. So it's,
So that money is designated for the festival.
yes.
So,
And
I mean, I like volunteers, and especially when I'm not, I don't have to, worry about it. My thing is, if this goes forward into, I don't want us to get in trouble down the road. If we've got this thing that's operating on the town's land and it's got some committee formed by the rec commission, I guess the first thing would be, John, does the rec commission have the ability to form this committee to run this thing?
Well, the rec commission can run it. If people who are going to be running it are not members of the rec commission, but say volunteers or something, these boards and commissions that we have cannot spin off sub-boards and commissions on their own. Particularly since the town is going to have liabilities, you say, not only on the land, but anything that happens, anybody who comes to that Potato Fest is going to believe, and have good reason to believe, that the town is sponsoring it, that the town is behind it. And so we have to have some responsibility as to how it's being run, who's running it, and whether it's on our insurance policy. This is, people are going to rightfully assume that this is a town function. And if it's a town function, the town council should have.
So then what you're saying is, if Pam wasn't running it, our recreation commission could be the committee that runs it.
Yeah.
But they can't make a subcommittee of them, not a subcommittee of themselves. People who aren't appointed to the rec commission by the council.
Yeah, that's not a subcommittee
Okay.
of the Park and Rec. That's a new committee.
So I guess again, then I ask, where do we go from where we are right now? How do we correct it?
Well, is it entirely clear to everybody where you want to go to, and then ask how you get there?
Can we make it a Park and Rec Commission, or a Potato Fest Commission?
Can you make it have a Potato Fest commission?
Committee.
That would be different. That'd be distinct from the Park and Rec, and that would be something that the town council would.
That's probably what we should do for
approving.
next year.
How often does the committee meet, Richard?
They meet, to my knowledge, monthly, and they do so prior to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
And you go to these meetings?
Yes.
Can you add that to your list of weekly reports, not weekly reports, once a month, can you report on the Potato Fest Committee, where it's going and what it's
So we
doing?
need to appoint a
a liaison or
Well, no, we have to form this
So,
committee.
yeah, I mean, should we
Basically,
get the
just
names of
to
who are
make it-
there and actually appoint them
I mean, to make it
to some committee? I mean,
So,
Well, I guess
legal
my
to go
question would
forward.
be, I mean, I know, because I was kind of involved, once the festival is done, they start almost planning for next year's potato festival simultaneously. The people involved previously, are those the same people that are on these committees, so to speak? So it was kind of a seamless transition, other than Pam running it.
well, she's still running it, right? I
But
mean,
now, with the 401C.
No, she's not
or
running it.
ta-
501.
Or 501C going into the nonprofit, how is that gonna work? Like, is that going under a committee, or is that?
Well, if it's a town,
well, that would be like youth basketball or
do you
or
need
rec
a
That'd be a separate
nonprofit?
rec league.
Separate,
It
I
have
don't
nothing to
think
do
so.
with the town.
Right.
So,
So do we want to do that, or do we want to form a committee from the council?
So if we were to run it, the town as a freestanding
Commission.
commission, we don't need a nonprofit. We could
Right.
form our own
Right.
board.
You'd be forming a standing committee, or you could authorize this group to file for a 501C and become a nonprofit corporation.
Yeah, they're not going to want to do
Well,
that.
if the town council has a committee set up, we don't need that, right? A nonprofit.
Biggest question is, if they become a 501c3, whose insurance are they going to be using, theirs or the town's?
There's,
they would have to buy their own
Yeah.
insurance.
Okay, so that adds
That's-
cost to the festival right there.
But there's also an advantage to that. It's one layer, they're going to have a policy for the weekend that's going to name the town as additionally insured, so it's going to be one layer removed.
Right, but
So
that's
there
going to
are
add
some-
cost to that festival.
Well, we're still paying separate insurance for that festival, right, Richard? That's not just something that can,
We get a rider,
we have a rider, right, we have a rider, so.
which is very cheap.
So I think what we need to discuss is whether it's to our advantage to form a 501c3 or to form a committee from this council just to do the potato festival.
Well, for this year, I don't think they have time.
There's nothing we can do for this.
So you have to
No,
appoint the
gotta be
committee for
going
this year,
forward.
because you can't get the.
Right, but going forward, we need to talk
But-
about
but-
that and make a decision on that.
Well, I guess for this year then, do we have to vote and approve their
This committee.
committee?
It's
I
already
mean,
in
is that
place.
something we
The
have to
committee
do?
is presently, the people on the committee are not members of the Park and Rec.
Correct.
Right.
Some of them are, right, or
No.
some?
Well,
I
Pam,
think
Pam is,
We need a list.
Pam is the
Yeah.
treasurer.
We need
Pam
a
Pam
list
is
of
the treasurer.
Pam may be, but I mean, if, the Park and Rec, the individual boards and commissions don't have the ability to appoint other committees. They can, from their own membership, create a subcommittee. We can create a subcommittee of the town council, but if this is going to be a run either as a nonprofit or as an agency of the town council has to be involved in that. I mean, it may be nothing more than your blessing, but this has to have, these folks have to have an identity, they have to be an entity.
So could we have Pam come to the next meeting and present this committee idea of hers and who's on it? And then maybe can we just create that, or?
I think if you hear from Pam, she's as close, along with the town manager, they're as close to being experts about the running of this festival as anybody would be. And I would think that what they might have to say, or what recommendation they may want to make to the council would be valuable, and then to the council, and then the council can make a judgment. If it's going to be by these 3 or 4 people who are presently lined up to run it, who are not members of the Park Rec, then you'll have to create some sort of an approval mechanism of this, I guess you'd call it the Potato Fest committee. Not subcommittee, but committee.
Committee.
Yeah.
I will get a roster of
Right.
who the volunteers are, and what positions they hold, and who the executive board would be characterized as, because there are, as Deputy Mayor Rose pointed out, there are several hundred volunteers involved with this event, and
I don't think they all need to be on the committee.
No, you just need.
hopefully not. These are the folks that have stepped up to keep it going, so.
All right.
Item B, Swycheck Property Wallfield Project. Project budget, design, presentation.
Good evening,
Are they
Ms.
gonna
Gals,
call it
here,
Wallfield?
based
Are they gonna
on
call it
make a presentation regarding their findings, cost estimate, preliminary schedule for implementation of the Wallfield, Swycheck Park improvement.
Memorial Field.
Just to give you a quick reminder, an overview of how we got here, we had a master plan that was done a number of years ago. We had a limited budget. We basically have $800,000 available grant funds to do this project. We've been narrowing it down, and we selected David Young. We gave him a preliminary concept of what we saw as a preliminary layout, asked him to look at installation of ball field, a little league field, another little league field, and an all-purpose field adjacent to that on the Swycheck property, along with access roads and parking and miscellaneous appurtenances that go with a recreational field. And basically, we asked them, the preliminary phase, look at everything, look at grading, make sure everything works, show the work for the overall site, with the intent that ultimately we anticipate going out with the ball field and the parking and the access roads because of the limited funds. Jim included a cost estimate there that he did. He can go over that, what went into it. But basically, what we're going to have to look at internally is trying to maybe modify some items, reduce the cost of some of those items. For instance, if it's precast structure, then we can do in-place blocks or some of the dugouts, or eliminate some of the items to make sure that we have a viable project with the funding that we have available. Jim also provided a schedule in there. At this point, let me turn it over to Jim. He can give you an overview of what they've done, their findings today, if there's any questions.
Before we get started, one question. Are we putting enough infrastructure so when we have to expand this project, it'll be there for us?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so that's one thing I want to get clear.
And that ends my presentation. Good evening, for those who don't know me, I'm Jim Gallagher from Nicholson Young. As Kurt said, what we put together here is a concept plan for the overall use of the site, including 2 ball fields, over about 120, 125 parking spaces. Above this field, sitting just above it is a practice facility. This practice facility is basically just graded, seeded, graded to drain, seeded for practice play. And it's not going to have sod, it's not going to have irrigation, that type of thing. It's just a practice area. The public works garage is located right here, and the driveway that drives through, comes down, runs in front of the public works garage. And this is basically the exit that we used during the aforementioned potato festival. What we're going to be doing is creating a more permanent surface here, a gravel or a millings type surface for the driveway into the parking area. The way the parking is set up, it's 2 double bays, 2 double rows, a turnaround place where kids can be dropped off, picked up where they have in traffic, travel across the front of moving vehicles, and then a simple exit that comes out. This field at this location is going to be what's going to be called Wall Field. It's the designated Little League field that comes out with Little League regulations. A large part of the work that we're going to be having the contractors do is placing some fill material in between the roadway in that field to be able to allow Public Works to be able to maintain it in a relatively simple manner. There'll be dugouts, as Kurt mentioned, dugouts with batting cages. There's a concession stand. This box over here, you probably have it on your diagram, is the location for septic system. The concession stand is going to be run off of a well. It's going to be put in the center of this turnaround here to just try and make it a little bit more ornate. The second phase of the work would be the second ball field. It's not intended to be part of what the bid project is at this particular point, but we want to be able to provide, as you mentioned, infrastructure enough to be able to provide the lighting the water, the septic system, anything else that needs to be able to support the second field. As you can see, we've provided you with a cost estimate of what the overall build-out of the whole project is, the total cost of what the first part of the project, which is wall field, is supporting water supply, irrigation, drainage, parking, and access. The next step for Kurt and myself to do is to sit down and say, and see what items can we break out of that phase one estimate that can be done with some type of an in-kind service or a volunteer service. Franny has mentioned to us that he has access to a certain amount of material. If you look at the estimate, there's probably $200,000 in earthwork and topsoil. That's a large number. It's 20% of what this total cost is. Those are two items in particular, so we'll have to take a hard look at and see what we can get as far as material and transportation. There's also, if you look at the estimate, there's $100,000 allocated for the concession building. It's just not a question of whether we're going to have a concession building or not. It's really a question of whether we're going to have it in the bid package or whether it's going to be constructed as part of a different vehicle, so to speak, as well as the earthwork and so on. It's a nice layout. It matches up very well to the study that you had previously done. The layout itself is almost identical to that. There's a drainage system that runs across the well field and intercepts any of the runoff that's going to be coming down from the embankment that's next to the driveway. The under-drain system that runs underneath the field runs out to that drainage system and then discharges off to the wetlands around the parking area. The parking area, as I mentioned before, is all going to be a gravel surface. One of the items that we're discussing with Kurt is how to delineate that surface. It's a gravel area, but we also don't want to have vehicles driving, off that gravel surface out into the playing area or the grass area. Up at Northland Park is a good example. You have split rail fence. We're not looking at anything extravagant. However, we do need to be able to define the limits. So we need to talk. Kurt and I are talking about what types of materials are cost effective to be able to delineate the parking. We also have to have some kind of a delineation in the middle here to try and keep people from traveling from one parking area to the next, to try and keep some order. It's a gravel surface, as you know. It's not always the easiest to try and get the average resident to use a gravel surface without clear line striping that you have at a Stop and Shop or that type of thing. So a couple of purchases we're going to need to do to make sure the residents can use the area appropriately.
They're going to have handicap spaces there?
Yes, there will. There'll be handicap spaces over in this area here. They're not designated at this point in time, but we have, you had it in your program and looked at trying to get around 100 spaces. Right now, we're up to a little bit over 120, so we know we can designate some of those spaces just for handicap.
Looks good.
I think from our standpoint, what we would be kind of trying to see if we could get from the council is kind of a blessing, so to speak, that Kurt and I could then try and come back and say, okay, now we want to try and take these elements out. Over the next steps for us is to go through the Wetlands Commission, the Planning Commission, get our local permits in line, and then come back and kind of separate out the items that we feel that are most cost effective to have done. Find out what other sources of money or sources of activity we use. In particular, the two items that I see that are the largest items that are most common able to get is the earthwork and the topsoil. We're trying to look to try and minimize our costs.
We got to get it done.
Do you have any idea how much material is on site?
I don't, not off the top of my head. I know that there are several piles, and your plans are too small to identify them. I know that they're too small to read. There are several piles on the site here, and Brandon's mentioned that he's got some other property over the material that the same place that could also get. We need around 12,000 yards in this area here. That is included in some of these piles that are here already, so that's just a matter of moving from point A to point B. The majority of the material that we use is to create this slope embankment outside the field. thing that's nice about this, and I'm sure you see when you're watching the good games and stuff, the World Series games on TV, this makes a great viewing.
Right.
Great view.
Yeah.
Now, the infields on these fields, they're gonna be topsoil or clay?
Anything inside the fence is sod.
So,
Anything inside the fence is sod, and Franny's got a special clay mix that he wants for the infields.
Right.
We're specifying exactly what he wants.
right.
Those are not skinned infields, they're regulation Little League infields.
Right.
And I believe what you're looking at is a 70-foot radius on the diamond, so it can accommodate the 70-foot bases, but they can also play at 60 feet.
Right.
So it's gonna have a dual mound, and that was the recommendation that came out of Little League too, because they feel that they'll be expanding to 70-foot radius shortly, if not this coming year. And the fence line, I believe, is at 225 for this field, so it'll accommodate the 70-foot radius as well.
And then, sir, we were looking at those plans. We turned those fields a little bit so they're not in the sun,
Right.
right? So the batter's not facing in the sun.
And for the council's benefit, that field on the upper left-hand side is really the future field.
Right.
That should be in very, very pale, light green, grayed out almost. We're planning, and the engineers have accommodated that in the grading plan, but there's no other infrastructure going into that other than to make sure that the irrigation is properly sized for it.
To continue it.
To phase that in.
Drains.
That whatever electrical, future drainage, all of those things are accommodated in this set of plans. By the same token, the wall field, as it's being relocated, will be sized, and there'll be some conduit laid and so forth for future electrical for lighting, but there will be no lighting as part of this particular project. So all of the transformer sizes, all of the conduit sizes, all of that has been determined by the engineer for future infrastructure.
Good.
So the field lighting system at $130,000, is that just the infrastructure, or are you talking?
No, it's the lighting and so on. As I
But-
said in the beginning, what we did was we priced out the entire project as it would be needed. Now we need to now say, okay,
Okay.
we'll take these items out.
Cool if we
That
could do
particular
nighttime, sir.
items.
Yeah.
You know,
So the next step, you need to sit down and
Well,
prioritize and pull
As Jim
up.
mentioned, and it's on the schedule, the process, we do have to go to Plains Zoning Commission, Wetlands Commission. If the general concurrence with the council, you can go forward, basically, with this area, less this field over here. That's not gonna get built at this point. This can all go. In the meantime, we're the concession stand, that's a matter of, basically, if money's available, some of those items. It doesn't impact what goes to the commission, because the commission, when it goes to commission, it will go with that understanding that some of these items, like, may need to be pulled out or reduced a little bit, ultimately. But we need to get, to both Plains Zoning Commission, the Wetlands Commission, primarily for the grading and the overall layout of every part in the field, and the access aisles.
Okay, so
To keep that moving,
right.
that needs to happen.
The first phase we're talking about is the parking lot, the infrastructure, and the field, and that's the 1.94.
That's the 1.94.
Right.
That's correct.
And we have, what, 830 or
We have
something?
about a little over $800,000.
Okay, so we're close on completion of the whole first phase.
That's correct. Yeah, you're at
Okay.
1.09, here. And then again, like I say, if you look at, there's probably 4 ticket items here. The earthwork, the topsoil.
Yeah, you could shave some money off of easily.
Very easily.
Because I'll tell you what, if we could put up a lighting system for that field, that would be the premier field
I'm gonna tell you,
in the area. We'd be able to do a lot of, like, tournament games and stuff like that, too.
I'm a big fan of lighting.
I played on the old wall field for New Haven Trap Rock.
Just add to the, the reason, then we'll end up with this plan. And one of the thoughts is, that's for Public Works, off-season, they can do a lot of this grading, once it's all done. Long-term, that's their goal, the grades are all shown. That's, you get a winter like this, it's an ideal filler. The same thing with that practice field, it's shown, which would be in this area right over here. It's a vacant field, needs some grading. Down the road, Public Works can do a lot of that and save a tremendous amount of money, just like they graded a good portion of this field, which is a significant savings in the town for a lot of
Do you- Can you figure any of that excavation from the Route 80 project would fit in here?
Depends on how that goes and what they're doing.
Really depends on time.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to, our goal is to try and have a play service for next spring. Not this spring, 2 months, next spring. So in order to do that, we really.
We need to get sod down by August.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, you said it exactly.
Well, this,
So
I
what's the
feel like I
next
should
step?
move forward on it. I don't know, everybody else.
Well, the council just has to give their blessing so they can move
Right,
to
so
the
they can do
planning
what
and
they need
zoning
to
and
do
what,
to all
you
their
know,
committees.
go to the other
We'll
committees.
come back with
All right.
Yeah, let's move it along, no?
Yeah.
what we were able to reduce, maybe quantities, as Jim said, earthwork, and then items that'll have to be either bid as an alternate or possibly eliminated from the future phase. But, you know, we have that fund, and we have a time frame to get this project done. So we certainly like to keep it moving.
Definitely looks good.
Yeah, I think.
Is there a proposed motion, Richard, that we need, or?
We need a motion, or do we just tell them to go ahead and do it?
I don't think you need a motion.
Go ahead and do it.
They're already moving forward.
We're
good, yeah.
Before we get off that, if we could
Looks
just.
good.
Could you point to the location that we've identified from staff? And this is a staff location. It has not been shared with the Parks and Recreation Commission for their information, for the
dog park.
conceptual dog park.
It's essentially, again, police station right here, Forest Road right here. We're talking in this area, down over here. And the southern part of the property, the southern limits of it, we could possibly have an access off to the field along Forest Road to get something over there. We've looked at Public Works and.
No, the other part of this plan, the older part, had a field right on the corner of, was it Mill Road?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's actually sort of behind that.
right.
To give you a sort of.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor, you're talking about the Highland property.
Highland, yes.
That's
Okay.
far to the south of this. What we're talking about is to the southerly side of this property.
Right.
And it would be accessible, there's a service road to the top of the
Oh, okay,
the
so it's
map
not
as
even
well.
near, it's not even near
Well,
that.
there's a field here right now,
Right,
and
yeah.
there's a small
There's
field.
a football
over here.
field or something,
Well,
right?
it's just an open, it's planted.
For the council's benefit, there's an area behind the red house that's just to the south of the police station on Forest Road where a large number of trees came crashing down in the winter storm that we had back in October. And all of that needs to be cleared, and there's a service road potential, not just from what would be the east side of the property, but the west side of the property as well, behind the fields. There would also be access to it. So we hope at some point, it would be they've proposed a fenced-in area, that would be an ideal place. It's a little bit off of the beaten path, but it would give them the opportunity to be out there. And there are still some trees standing, and you would not want to have this just in a blank field. You would want to have some trees and some shade for the people that use it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Repetitive flood claim application, 64 Crossfield Road.
Good evening. This item was on the previous town council agenda, and discussion came up about some type of agreement between the property owner and the town and some of the items of concern. What I've done basically, in the current packet, there's actually two suggested motions. The first one is the same motion that was included in the last packet, and that basically corresponds to the requirement for the DEP authorizing the town manager to enter into the personal service agreement contract with the state of Connecticut for the acquisition of property at 64 Crossfield Road. The second motion is a new motion, and that's put together in discussions with the town attorney's office, basically saying that prior to expending any funds towards the acquisition of the property, in accordance with the DEP agreement, in an amount not to exceed the grant amount of $329,500 The town and the property owners shall enter into a purchase and sales agreement for acquisition of the property, stipulating terms and conditions of proposed sale of said property to the town, delineating the responsibilities for all costs associated with said acquisition. Condition that the town shall not spend more than the grant amount, $329,500 in total towards the acquisition and demolition of the property. It also provides that the agreement, in the agreement that the current property owner shall be responsible for all costs associated with performing asbestos and lead paint pre-demolition inspection survey in accordance with all local, state, federal requirements, and for the ability of either party to terminate sale acquisition of the property deemed in the best interest of either party. So either party can back out. The property owner has to have the lead and asbestos pavement study done at their cost. If it comes back, there was a tremendous cost associated with it. I mean, if it puts us over to $329,500, well, that's, everybody knows that front, and the property owner will be responsible for it at that point.
John, this was the contract you had time to review?
Yes, and I did exchange communications with Kurt. Actually, I suggested that in response to a comment that I thought was semi-humorous by Councilman Fornin, who said he didn't want to see people walking around in spacesuits after we got this property. So it's probably not very likely that a residential property is going to have any of this environmental pollution, but his comment I thought was well taken, and so we put that in there as a sort of a condition precedent to actually entering into the contract, or it's subject to that. So I've seen that, I've reviewed it, and I believe it's appropriate.
And the property owner has as well. I mean, he's read it, he's aware of it, he's okay with it. Certainly, it's a benefit to him to get this thing moving, and the property is very subject to frequent flooding. That's the whole purpose behind it, is to try to eliminate that continuing problem. So again, I mean, it does require two motions to, one, the first one being to meet the DEP requirements, the second one to basically protect the town in terms of the purchase and sales agreement, stipulating those conditions that the town has.
And you may recall that the idea of either the town or the buyers, or rather sellers, pulling out of the contract entirely is really derived from the state, because the state has the right under their arrangement to suddenly tell us, forget it, it's not in our best interest, which in turn I'm sure would trigger us making the same statement to the homeowners. Again, hopefully an unlikely
But you're telling us we're protected is what you're telling us, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll move the first motion.
If I could just add one thing before you do it, the last line that was added in there, prior to commencing with the proposed acquisition and demolition of the property, or spending any funds towards acquisition and demolition, the proposed purchase and sales agreement shall be approved by the town council as recommended by the town attorney. You can another look at it, so when it's all put together, you're seeing it, but at least it authorizes everything to proceed.
Yeah, point.
Okay.
I second the first one.
The first suggested motion moved by Councilor Caprio, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni?
Yes.
Councilor Caprio?
Yes.
Councilor Duty?
Yes.
Councilor Esposito?
Yes.
Councilor Fuji?
Yes.
Councilor Butler?
Yes.
I move the second motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Fusi. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fuji?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes.
Item D, Stanley T. Williams Budget Reallocation Project Funding Update.
Mr. Mayor, I think this item was covered when Councilor Angeloni gave her report that this budget information has yet to be reviewed by a special meeting of the Permanent Project Building Committee.
I'll just quickly summarize. Attached is like a worksheet the town manager had worked on to give us another look at a savings and another approach to look at this project at Stanley T. Williams on the back page. And if you look at this, the total is roughly $128,000 out of the $51,000. I think what we're looking for maybe is some input as far as, if we think, this is doable, to start moving this project forward. We're in between buildings right now, and, if we can start focusing on this project, I think it's very important to the town as far as the cost savings and, getting things under one roof.
What's the total allocation we have for this project?
Unfortunately, then, we did not get the second part of the grant.
200,000.
Right.
How much?
200,000 right now from the first steep grant.
And the HVAC's gonna cost us what?
175.
So the HVAC is going to eat up the steep funds, the
Right.
first grant.
So the 128 is basically a pipe dream.
The 128 is a point of discussion, a place to start the discussion about what the priorities in the project could be using the architect's estimates. If you look at the architect's job, he completed what they were supposed to do, which is give you everything, or give the building committee everything. And what I did was to take off of that to start a discussion about what are the basic priorities that are needed to get in the door. And the top sheet is, as I think you've seen before, is the remaining balance from the savings from the library project, which has already been bonded and is part of our debt service schedule.
And we do have to start looking at this because of, time of the grant. There is a time limit, so.
Not only that, but they're gonna be digging up down on Route 80 where the old rec center is.
Right.
So they're gonna be doing that too, so we do have to do this.
We gotta start really looking at this. So I think as Richard stated and Councilor Angeloni, there's gonna be a special meeting with the permanent project. Hopefully after that meeting, maybe we can, start looking at this further.
Can we make sure that that meeting happens prior to our next building committee meeting, so that at that building committee meeting, the building committee can make a decision to move it forward to the town council at the second meeting in March? Well, it depends. That 128 might change a little after we meet with the rec department. That's why we don't have a number to present to the council, because we haven't had that meeting yet with them.
Are there any other questions, Councilor? Item E, budget preparation schedule, proposed modification.
Mr. Mayor, we have a slight modification. What was scheduled originally as March 31st for the departmental budget workshop, the request is to move it to March 24th, a week earlier. That request met with no issue with the police department or some of the members of the police commission, and the fire commission should be okay with it, as it is the request of the fire chief. There's training on March 31st that's mandatory, so there's a number of people who would not be able to attend on that day.
Item F, North Branford High School roof project.
Mayor, I think I covered this issue under the town manager's report. We are working to get the RFQ out so that the project can move forward, and I believe there's special legislation that will be proposed, if it hasn't been already, by Representative Candelara to cover the last phase, or the first phase of the project.
Item G, charter revision. I spoke with Councilor Fawnin before he went away this week, and if we could possibly come up this evening with some names for this committee, which will give us time to review some
Right, or
names.
have the names submitted at our next council meeting.
Right.
Instead of putting them all together right now.
Right.
Have them submitted for the next council meeting. And here's basically the rules that we got too
Yeah.
for putting them together. We can decide how many people we want between 5 and 15.
Right.
So,
But we did decide,
We
I think,
made a
on
motion for 7.
did we
Yeah.
make a motion for 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, if we can, you know, start coming up with some names, that way we can,
Yeah, I mean,
start
there's been
discussing.
some input, I'm sure that people have names, we'll get them all to you, Ann, and you can get them down on a piece of paper, and we
Sure.
can discuss them, and then we need to move forward.
Right. Very good. And Roger said he didn't want to be on it anymore.
You withdrew, Roger?
Oh, no, you didn't. No, you wanted to be on it.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Okay. New business, discussion and action regarding A, Regional Performance Incentive Grant, Shared Services Feasibility Study.
Mr. Mayor, the motion that's before you completes the document trail that was necessary for Council of Governments. They wanted some additional information on the first, and this blesses the execution that was done prior to the grant submission that was required for last week.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Judy, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelara?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fucci?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes.
Item B, Finance Subcommittee, draft agenda for the March 7th, 2012 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Could we add an item on that? Maybe we could get the, all the detail on the potato and corn festival on there as an item.
It's item I.
1, 2,
Yeah.
I, right?
Yep.
I'll second it.
All right, motion to add to the Finance Subcommittee, item I, the Potato and Corn Festival,
Itemized accounting.
itemized accounting, moved by Deputy Mayor Rose, seconded by Councilor Wentworth. Roll call.
Mayor Candelara?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fucci?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes.
Now, the original motion to accept the agenda was moved by Councilor Esposito and seconded by, I believe, Councilor Fucy. Roll call.
Mayor Candelara?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fucci?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes.
Item C, financial report, January 31st, 2012.
Good evening. The property taxes continue to remain very strong. You see 92.4% of current year compared to 91.8% for the previous year. Delinquent collections, again, remain strong, $217,000 collected versus $123,000 this time last year. Total revenues, 83% of budget compared to 77.5% last year. On the expense side, at the bottom of the page, slightly ahead of last year, half of a percent, nothing too wild. The same departments that are over, the same ones lingering from the prior month, the town attorney fees and, not the town attorney per se, but litigation in general, which we're going to address this year in the budget, and elderly housing, which was a function of the sewer rate being raised higher than the budget amount was. Aside from that, the report is basically unremarkable. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
In line with the investment income, yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's meager. So what's the deal?
The best rate we can get now to get 1% is to put our CDs out about 3 years. And we're trying to go out as best we can with safe investments. Obviously, safety is more important than the rate. So what happens throughout the year, too, you'll notice that, you'll see at the end of the year, a lot of our investments are in laddered out CDs that the reports don't come in but once a year. So it'll look very dismal throughout the entire year, but then in June there'll be a large surge of income that's reported. So it's updated throughout the year currently, but the reports don't come into us until end of the fiscal year.
Jumped right out at me.
Yeah, it's terrible. I gave the Finance Committee a sheet at the meeting last week, and I think the 30-day CD rate was like 0.04 or something like that. It's terrible. I mean, it's good on the refinancing, and it saved us on the debt service on that side of the fence, but it's hurting us on, just like everybody else, it's hurting us on investment income.
Right. Now our public works budget, is our snow budget included all in that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anthony, if you go down to the Board of Education, the gross number of $29,386,427.
Yeah.
That's complete tax dollars. There's no grants in that or anything.
Correct. That's just taxation.
What we got through taxation.
That's correct.
Okay. That'll help me later on.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Appropriation transfers 2011 to 2012.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Esposito.
Yes.
Counselor Fuji.
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth.
Yes.
Sorry, I think I skipped item D. I'm going to go back to contingency appropriation.
That's what we just did.
Fiscal year. I thought I did appropriation transfer. Did I do the right one?
He did appropriation transfer.
Do we do both of them?
Yeah.
It was contingency.
Yeah, we didn't do appropriation.
Called it as appropriation transfer.
Yeah, I meant to do contingency appropriation transfers. Was that the right motion?
The one's a contingency appropriation and the one's a transfer.
I think I switched them.
Yeah.
Contingency appropriations for the fiscal year 2011 and 12. Which would be item D, I'm sorry. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Esposito, seconded by Councilor Caprio. Roll call.
Hang on, I got a question. The fire hydrant markers, who owns the fire hydrants? Do we own the
South
fire
Central
hydrants?
Regional Water
Or do
Authority.
we rent them?
Lease them, yeah.
We lease
Lease
them.
them.
So it's up to us to put markers on them?
Correct.
And those are just like that metal pole with the flag?
They're a fiberglass pole with reflective bands. Correct.
So they don't have to shovel, basically.
Well, if you recall, last year's budget was done in the time when we had, 30
So you
feet of
could
snow.
find them if there was snow?
Exactly, and at nighttime, they're more visible as well, too. If you drive through Guilford, Guilford has a nice system, they have these poles, and they also have like a white reflective band around their hydrants towards the top. If you drive down Route 80 at night, the hydrants, you can see them a mile away, they stick out really nice. It's important in a time of an emergency to find out where the hydrants are rapidly, so this will help.
So is that the band too on this?
No, this is just the pole.
Just
This
the
actually was
poles.
put in the budget last year due to a formula error. It didn't get carried to the main budget that was adopted.
Right.
So at the time, there was already been some of these that had been purchased, thinking the money was already approved. This is the allow to purchase enough for the entire project. And there was an Eagle Scout that was lined up to actually go out and install
Cool,
these.
man.
And
Cool.
and to mark them up, so.
Another volunteer.
Correct.
I believe it's that roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fuji?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes. Excuse me, yes.
Item F, approval of tax refund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Wentworth, seconded by Counselor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fuji?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes.
11, citizen statements and petition.
Nothing, Raj? Wow.
You guys are doing great, I just. Carry on.
May I have a motion to go into executive session? 1-200.
Second.
Claims, including the town manager and the town attorney. Moved by Counselor Esposito, seconded by Counselor Fucy. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Esposito?
Yes.
Counselor Fuji?
Yes.
Counselor Wentworth?
Yes. Take a minute break.
Oh, we did good time.